All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Reverend Diana Thompson. I'm the senior minister at the Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple. I'd like to thank everybody for inviting me tonight. I'm looking forward to being with you all. I also am here with the group kind of as a representative of the Multi-Faith Leadership Forum of Metro Denver, which is a local network of faith leaders from Metro Denver who we are committed to building relationships of understanding and support across all faith traditions and to being a voice and resource for multi-faith engagement in the Denver area. I'd like to begin this evening doing a chant from my specific tradition, which is Jodo Shinshu Buddhist. So it'll be just a moment where everybody can kind of quiet ourselves and center ourselves. And after I do this chant, I will give the translation and just go into sort of my short talk for the evening. So if everybody just wants to sit quietly, however you're comfortable, and just take a moment to reflect. Mumyo Bonno Shigeku Shite Jinbu no Gotoku Enmansu Aizo Iju Suru Koto Obu Gakuzani Koto Narazu. Ignorance and blind passions abound, pervading everywhere like innumerable particles of dust. Desire and hatred arising out of conflict and accord are like high peaks and mountain ridges. Now, this particular passage, it is we call wasan or poem that was written by the founder of our tradition, Shinran Shonin. And I picked this one specifically just because I was also asked to sort of make a statement on what has been going on recently. And in this passage, Shinran is referring to what in Buddhism we call the three poisons, specifically greed, anger, and stupidity or ignorance. And at my temple, we always use greed, anger, and stupidity because the minister there, when I was a child, liked to remind us all that throughout our lives, we are plagued with gas. So greed, anger, and stupidity are three things that we carry with us and are the cause of our specific suffering. When the Buddha spoke of suffering, he was saying that it is our greed, our anger, and our ignorance that are things that lead to our misunderstanding of the world around us, specifically our misunderstanding of the idea of things being in constant flux and change, but also our failure to understand the fact that we are all interconnected, that every action, it may not have a specific reaction, but does have an effect on everything and everyone around us. For Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, we say that these are things that as human beings, because we lack perfect wisdom, compassion, we are unable to get rid of these things. But knowing that we are beings who contain all these three poisons is something that is supposed to lead us to a greater awareness. So greed is our desire for comfort. It's our worries over money, over health and safety of our loved ones. Not inherently a bad thing, but destructive when we let this greed turn into anger and hatred. And greed and anger together make us completely blind with ignorance, to the point where we become fearful and mistrustful of others. They breed prejudice and hate, which cause us to separate from our fellow human beings rather than coming together with them to solve actual problems or to solve them in a reasonable way. So when we begin to accept these imperfect parts of ourselves is when we begin to live more authentic lives. When we understand ourselves to be unenlightened, small, foolish beings, it's okay. Because when we know this about ourselves, it means that we are aware and therefore have to begin choosing how to live with those things. So we have to think, what is our greed doing? Is it grasping? Is it miserly, like a hungry ghost trying to take things from others? Or is it a wish for the safety and comfort of others and holding on to that within ourselves? And is our anger making us hate and fear others? Or is it a motivating factor that helps us to speak out against injustice and to fight for other people? And does the knowledge of our ignorance make us stubborn and obstinate like high peaks and mountain ridges? Or is it also a motivating factor that leads us to seek truth? So when we talk about gas, this greed, this anger and stupidity, we have to focus on, we know that this is part of us, but are we bloating up with it or feeling a mild discomfort? And we have to remember that every single one of us is struggling with this. And for us, when the Buddha went to attain enlightenment, he did so because he saw the world with what we call eyes of great sorrow. He heard the cries of the world and wanted to strive to ensure that all beings would be able to be bathed in the warm light of wisdom and compassion. And so for us, when we begin to set out to seek truth, we are reminded that great wisdom and compassion is possible and it is with us at all times, and that we need to not seek perfection, but seek truth, to know that we ourselves are imperfect, but that all of our fellow travelers are imperfect as well, that they are seeking safety and security. They are seeking health and well-being. They are worried and fearful. And what we can do is to try to understand that within ourselves, to not let ourselves fall down into greed, anger, and stupidity to the point where we become hateful and fearful, but to let these things motivate us to action, to speak out for others, to know what our limitations are, because we cannot do everything and save everyone, but to let those motivating factors to action lead us to do what we can, to be kind and compassionate with ourselves when we think that we have fallen short of what we really want to do, to be kind and compassionate to other people, knowing that all of us are struggling with these same things, and to remember that to stagnate is not to know truth, but to ensure that you are motivated to go out and act for what you think is right, to act on the behalf of others, is seeking truth itself. So rather than being greedy and grasping, rather than being mired in hatred and fear, and rather than embracing your own ignorance, thinking that you are right about everything, it is more important to use anger to motivate your action, to use your ignorance to motivate your wisdom, and to use your greed to motivate your desire for others to be happy and secure. So thank you all again. I'm trying to watch the time. I think I've hit about my 10-minute limit, but a couple of things. We have, I think I actually will leave this over to Rabbi Stephen Booth Nadav to kind of explain a few of these things. We have a couple of action items coming up ourselves, including an event tomorrow and a statement that's been put out by this group to in solidarity. So Stephen, I'll let you do that.
I don't know whether, oh, here we go. Good. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Diana. That was an awesome teaching I want to be thinking about for a while. So thank you. Real briefly, I think on the live stream, and it mentions a donation option with the Multicultural Mosaic Foundation, which has a fund that they funded themselves at $10,000 for starts to help refugees and immigrants during this time of the pandemic. So if you'd like to make a donation to them, please do. Our organization, the Multi-Faith Leadership Forum, has a statement out about the events of the last week or so, starting in Minneapolis, and that will be available on our Facebook page, the Multi-Faith Leadership Forum, or MFLF, Facebook page tomorrow. So feel free to look at that there. And last but not least, sort of our co-host for tonight, the Multicultural Mosaic Foundation, is offering a program I want to make sure people know about tomorrow night. It's on their Facebook page. So again, you go to Facebook and go to Multicultural Mosaic Foundation, and you will see a program called The Killing of George Floyd, the Aftermath and Reflections with Colorado African American Leaders. There were 5, there are now 6 African American leaders I see that will be speaking tomorrow night starting at 6:30. Imam Abdur Rahim Ali, Tamara Banks, Adrian Miller from the Colorado Council of Churches, Dr. Nabi Hassan, a young leader in the Muslim community and also a doctor at National Jewish. Nadine Ibrahim will be the moderator, and Tay Anderson is joining us. Please go to the Multicultural Mosaic Foundation and sign up in advance to join this conversation of reflections with Colorado African American leaders tomorrow night, Wednesday at 6:30. And I guess thank you and good night. See you next week.